Hello there. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing fine. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Welcome to another edition of Let's Make a Freaking Game Jam game. With me, of course. Who else? Two nerdy nerds. Hi there. Hey, Bernardo. How is it going? Happy Friday. How are you guys? Are you guys recharged? That's my first question. Because I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow afternoon. I had a bit of a nerd withdrawal, if you can say that. Hey Tibor, what's up? Mi a helyzet? Oof. Damn. What am I doing today also? While you guys answer. I'm going to work on a game that we started making about a week before. And it's once again the typical monthly jam game that we are doing with what we've been doing for 11 months now. So for November, the themes of the same monthly jam was either Shapeshift, Voronoi, Break the Fourth Wall, or only 3D. And this time we went with the Voronoi, and we came up with the game title War on Oil. And yeah, we are making a game that looks a little bit like this at the moment. It's a little action game. It's going to have some light RTS elements. You're gonna have to build stuff and transport stuff. You control this little flying drone, and you'll have to build oil rigs to mine or extract oil from the ground. Then you'll have these little barrels, which you will have to transport to base. You can pick up more than one. At the moment you can pick up 5, but this is probably going to be some upgraded state. And then you will have to drop them off, and they will get converted to resources or something, and you can build more stuff. And there will be these little pesky aliens who will probably not follow you around, but will attack your buildings and try to, get rid of you because they don't like that you're here on their planet. So you will have to get rid of them. For now, the only way to do that is to land and have this really wonkily working shooting mechanic and just shoot them. But this part is still very new and looks like crap at the moment. So I'm going to check chat at this point. Ready to get back into it. Good to hear, Bernardo. I hope you guys are really doing fine. I saw that you released the 1.1 patch for Super Cat Cafe. I did a little quick test just to make sure that everything is working fine, but I'm gonna probably spend some time and test all the new features and get the new hat, the fedora, of course. So yeah, that's the plan for the weekend for me. Yeah, what the frick is going on in chat? Doing boring work. Oh yeah, Tibor is still probably doing some boring graphic design stuff or something. But yeah, Tibor is going to be working on this game as well. And this time we also have a new person who is going to help with the 3D models. So we have these little mostly placeholder stuff in the world at the moment. This one you might be able to recognize if you are familiar with the Kenny asset packs, our Lord and Savior Kenny. And yeah, the barrel and this little platform stuff is still from the set packs. These big rocks are actually from our graphics artist, but these are just some preliminary stuff, because one of the problems is making a game in Construct is that if you're going to go 3D, you're going to have difficulties, and you will have to rely on third-party add-ons to do that, because Construct does not support 3D models at all by default. So to make sure that the model import bit was working fine, our 3D artist sent some assets so I can test and make sure that they can actually be imported to the game, which was a bit of a relief to see that indeed they can. But we are still not quite sure how we are going to end up in terms of performance. And we might have to cut back on polygons and I don't know, maybe shading, although the only shading that is happening in the game at the moment is this really tricky looking SSAO stuff, so ambient occlusion. And we probably won't have any dynamic lighting or anything, because this is something that I don't want to spend another innovation token on, per se. The only one that I want to spend is just making sure that 3D models can be imported and used in the game. And for example, we're gonna have some animations. These little guys who are walking around already have a couple animations, but for now they are only following you, so the only animation that is playing is the walking one. But they're gonna have attack animations, probably some idle animations, dying animations, stuff like this. So yeah, these are still some things that I'm not quite sure if we'll be able to do, because we are relying on third-party stuff, but we'll see, I guess. So yeah, this is where we are at the moment. Oh yeah, and the Voronoi part for the theme. As you can see, this the level has these little lines all over it. These are not going to be visible by default anyway. And also the cells that are made up of these lines are assigned a little number. These are also not going to be visible. So essentially what we came up with is that we are going to use this Voronoi diagram, which is randomly generated. So if I refresh the game, a completely different Voronoi diagram is going to show up. And essentially these will be the cells that you will be able to mine or to extract oil from. So for example, if the player decides to put down a little probe somewhere here, this probe is going to get to work, gonna drill, and then after a few, I don't know, seconds or something, the cell borders will be visible on the map, and possibly in the world as well, we're not sure. But you're going to have some information whether it is feasible to mine to extract oil from this cell that you chose. And the plan is that you will be able to build more than one probe, or maybe move the existing probes around and put them down somewhere else. So gradually you will be able to discover the whole map and find out where to go with your mining rig. Mining? Why the I keep saying mining? You don't mine oil, you extract it from the ground, right? So yeah, the oil rig is going to have to be placed on the cells that have the most oil. So yeah, this is the plan at the moment. You can land and you can shoot while you are grounded, and then you can take off and move around and move some oil barrels. At the moment you can't kill the enemies by dropping the oil barrels on top of them, but this is something that we might also consider later. So yeah, new nerd friend indeed. She actually took part in the same jam a couple months ago, and there's this little Discord server for this monthly jam that we are doing. And she posted like a week ago or something that, hey, I'm free, I would like to join a team. And she said that she's mostly accustomed to making 3D models and stuff like this. So essentially we immediately dropped her a message, and since one of the modifiers for the gem is only 3D, we decided that, okay, we're gonna do a little 3D game, and a little 3D game with actual 3D models. So we have done some 3D or 2.5D games before, but we have not really used any proper 3D models, only sprites and billboards and stuff like this. So this is where we are. I'm going to take a look at the to-do list. So oil barrel drop-off zone is something that I have to implement at one point. This is where you'll be able to drop off the oil barrels, so they can be converted to resources that you can use for buying stuff. And then we have this little item called probes. These are the machines that you can drop off anywhere, and these will be useful for finding out how much oil is in a designated cell. Defensive turrets we talked about. So the player can shoot enemies, but we might want to allow the player to also build some defensive turrets that will automatically shoot enemies that are nearby. So yeah, this is something I want to do. And some minor stuff, cargo weight effect on movement speed. Yeah, I'm just going to skip this. Yeah, we have to make a decision about the level boundaries. We had an idea that we might want to go with something that is a little more sophisticated than what we did in the previous monthly jam, which was the Asteroid Master Blaster game, where you played asteroids, but there were solid lever boundaries, even though that they were invisible, so it looked like crap. So we had an idea that we stole from Borderlands, for example. In Borderlands, there were these big freaking maps, but there were some visible boundaries that you could cross, but if you did cross them, you got shot by a machine gun or something. So we figured that maybe we could do something like that, like a big giant rocket appears in the distance and starts homing on you and shoots you down if you go outside the boundaries. Yeah, responsive viewport is something I want to make as well, because I usually do that thing. Right now the viewport is fixed at a 16:9 aspect ratio, so these black bars show up if you use a different window size or window ratio. Yeah, we don't have any audio yet, but this is something that Tibor will hopefully take care of. I mean, seeing that he's somewhat freed from the visual art chores, hopefully he'll be able to focus a bit more on music and sound effects this time. So, and also make the UI. Yeah, and we had an idea that we might want to have different oil types that you can mine, and you can use the different oil types for different purposes. For example, one for player upgrades, one for equipment upgrades, like making the probes and the towers more powerful, and one that is the primary resource, because we figured that the win condition of the game should be something like, hey, mine or not mine, extract this many barrels or something. Which should be fairly straightforward. I'm going to hydrate from my new mug. And I'm going to get started, because we are quite ambitious with this project, and even though we have still 11 days left, I have a lot of things to do and accomplish. So, not to mention this little part. Let me just search for to do in the code base. Yeah, a couple items. Most of them are just these little to-do mn comments are just to signify that I use the magic number somewhere and I really should put it in a constant or a variable or something. But there are also to-do comments that needs me to refactor something because it looks like crap or not optimal. So yeah, quite a lot of things to do. So I'm going to start yapping and actually get started on this whole thing. So what I did yesterday was the attack mechanic, this super basic one. So when the player lands, they can shoot, but right now you can only shoot in 8 directions if you're using the keyboard, because you move the player with the WASD keys, and if you land by pressing X, you can shoot in using the same keys to specify the direction, but this is not going to cut it because enemies will sometimes come at a tricky angle, for example him or her, I don't know. So yeah, this is problematic. So I figured that I should probably use mouse to specify the angle, or the alternative that is also already working is that you can use a gamepad to control the game. If my gamepad is working. Yeah, it is. So you can use the analog stick, the left one, to move around, which is good because you can specify any angle, not just the 8 directions that you would use with a D-pad, which also works, by the way. But yeah, or with the keyboard. So yeah, right now, if you press X, you can land, and now you can use the left analog stick to specify the angle. So this is good if you're using a gamepad, but if you're not, then you are still limited to the 8 directions of shooting. So I'm just going to figure out how to add mouse input, because we don't have any mouse input at this point in the game. So I'm not sure if I made a discrete to-do item for this sort of thing. Let me just search for mouse. Yeah, player attack, digital analog aim, including mouse. Yeah. So here we are. I have this little tilde to signify that this is in progress but not finished. So I'm just going to get started on this, and then we'll probably move on to a feature or something. Okay, so to make the mouse movement, I will definitely need to add the mouse object to the game. so I can get the coordinates of the mouse cursor and stuff like this. And I also need to do something like adding an event right here that actually gets the position of the mouse, and we will have to convert the two-dimensional real position of the mouse to the appropriate position in the 3D world. And I'm also going to need to use some sort of cursor, I think. So at first I'm going to create one. I'm just going to make another sprite, put it right here. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to make a little X, I guess. Just a little marker that, oops, this is a bit too thick. So just a little marker that will show up on the ground, I think. Make sure the origin's in the middle. I don't really care about the hitbox or the collision polygon. This is fine. I'm going to name this UI mouse 3D, although it's a little confusing. It's not a 3D object, so I'm just going to call it UI mouse for now. And I think I'm going to move this object right away to my level layout, put it somewhere here, for example, and on the main layer, which is a 3D layer. So, okay, this is fine, I think. And now I just need to make sure that the position of this object is it matches the position of the mouse. So to do that, I'm going to create an event called onMovement, and I'm going to say mouse UI mouse set position. And here I need to make a little conversion, which I always forget which function do I have to use in this case, but let me just yeah, think about it. I think on the 3D camera object I have this little layer to layer function, but I might need the canvas to layer one that also exists, I think. Depends, because there's mouse X and mouse absolute X or something, so one of them is for the canvas to layer and one of them is for the layer to layer bit. So I'm just going to try at first one of the mouse.x and mouse.y positions, although okay, so okay, this is a bit tricky, I think. Or is it? Okay, so the layer I'm converting from is, let's say, the UI layer. And the layer I'm converting to is the main one, which is 3D. And then I need to specify the X, Y, and Z coordinates. So the X should come from mouse absolute X, I think, mouse absolute Y, and Z should be something like 0, because the mouse does not have a Z coordinate. So this I'm just going to copy right here and change X to Y. So this should give us something, although probably not the correct behavior. Okay, so the mouse is moving, but nothing is happening so far, which is not great. Maybe I need this mouse X and mouse. Oh crap, I forgot to do something because I copied the and changed the X to Y right here, but not here. This is problematic. No, wait, sorry, no, I don't have to change it because these should be the mouse X and Y coordinates. Okay, so yeah, okay. I'm also guessing that 0 might not cut it anyway because the terrain is not flat. So I'm just going to make a little Z offset, but so far nothing happens, which is all right, I guess. So this is on the main layer. This is fine. Okay, so let's play around a little. instead of using the absolute coordinates, which I figured that should be the right ones because the UI layer is 2D and the parallax is turned off on it, so But okay, so something is definitely happening because if I'm moving my cursor, the UI mouse object shows up, but it's not in the correct position. Okay. What if I go back to the absolute one? And, okay. So it's definitely doing something, but it's not correct. Right. What if I use the canvas to layer X stuff? I'm guessing that the first layer should be removed from the arguments. I mean, technically I could check the docs, but hey, I don't need to. This is already working better. I think this is all right. The Z elevation is a bit off, maybe. So what if I switch that back to 0? Okay, so this is now working better. I'm going to check if the non-flat terrain is going to be an issue, but seemingly it does not. Okay, this is okay. I might want to do some smoothing or something because it appears a little choppy. This might have to do with the on mouse movement trigger not running continuously, but this shouldn't be an issue, I think. I'm just going to do some little smoothing of the position. Maybe it will achieve better results, but if not, I'm just going to leave it like this because this is acceptable, I think. So for smoothing, I usually don't use the lerp function. Instead, I have this little exponential decay function set up. So what I need to do is to get the current X position of the UI mouse object and use it as the source, and for the target I'm going to copy whatever I had before here, and I need to specify, just like with lerp, you specify a time, no, not a time, factor or something. This is very similar, but it goes on an effective range of 1 to 25. I have no idea how the math works, but if you're interested in this, then Freya Olmer has a great video on the exponential decay function and why is it better to use than lerp. Spoiler alert, it has to do with the delta time not taken into account when you're using lerp by default. And this exponential decay function internally uses the current delta time. So yeah, that's about it in a nutshell. So I'm just going to say it should be fairly quick, so I'm going to give it the 20 parameter, and I'm going to do the same right here. So let's check it out. There's a bit of a lag when I make a quick movement, but it looks smoother. I'm not sure if you are able to see the difference on stream, hopefully. But yeah, I think this is all right. It's fairly quick because of the 20 factor, so I'm just going to check if I reduce this to 15 or something. But it's going to be slower in this case. There's going to be a bigger lag, so yeah, this is not great. 20 was all right. Okay, I'm going to leave it as is. So now I have a mouse cursor in the world, although I don't really like the fact that there's this little shadow on it, and the shadow appears, as you can see. So there's a little, it looks like a drop shadow or something. It doesn't look bad, but I'm not going to opt into that shadow effect, which is on the main layer. Here's the SSAO, the ambient occlusion stuff. So since we are spawning the UI mouse object on the main layer, this will also add the little shadow on it. So I'm just going to move it to the player layer which is hidden by default. That's why the object disappeared for a bit. But now it does not have the shadow, so this is okay, I think. I think I'm going to, yeah, I will need to do this stuff every tick because of reasons, because of the smoothing. So I'm just going to move this, remove it from here completely, and actually I don't need the event anymore. I'm just going to put this right here. So every tick I'm going to move the mouse to whatever the mouse's position. However, this is not great, and as you could see for a bit in the beginning, if I move my mouse, there's this little smooth transition from the original position of the mouse object to the new one, which looks weird. So for this, I think I'm going to create a new event sheet and do all this mouse cursor, the UI mouse cursor initialization and ticking as well in a separate custom action, which is essentially a function. So I'm just going to say a mouse. I'm going to look for an appropriate icon, an emoji, whoops, tongue twister. So yeah, I could use an actual mouse, why not? It's funnier. And I'm going to create two custom actions. One is for the UI mouse object and it's called init. And the other one is also for the UI mouse object, but it is called tick. And what I usually do is to call the init function when the object is created. So right here, UI mouse created mouse init. And instead of doing this stuff right here, I'm going to say mouse or UI mouse and tick and move this little action right here. So for the initialization, I also need to do this, but without the smoothing. So I'm just going to take this part. So at the start of the game, when the UI mouse object is created, it is already also positioned to wherever the mouse's current position on the screen is, of course, converted from the 2D to 3D. Okay, it doesn't really work, not yet anyway. Meanwhile, I'm also going to check my phone because we had a little meeting planned regarding this game. One second, please hold. Good. So that's taken care of. So we're gonna have a little call and go through the state of the game tomorrow. So this is fine. Okay, so the mouse cursor is working, but I still have this little tween essentially. But this might be because I'm guessing that the mouse is still positioned in the 0, 0 position. Maybe not. No, somewhere else, definitely. Right. Okay, what's the issue here? Because this is fine, I think. So when the mouse object is created, I position it to wherever, but I'm not sure if these mouse values are actually available if I don't start moving my mouse. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, so sounds a little hacky, but I think I could do something like making the mouse cursor invisible at first. And essentially I only need to turn on its visibility when the player is already in a landed position, which is going to happen later anyway. So I'm just going to do that, I think. So by default, I'm going to make it invisible. And also, I'm going to switch its visibility when the landing is happening or not happening. So there are parts that need to be refactored, probably, but this is the part where the takeoff is actually finished, and this is where the landing is finished. So I could do something like hooking in the mouse cursor visibility stuff right here. And this is where the takeoff and landing start. This is where the landing starts, and this is where the takeoff starts. So I'm guessing I should make it visible already when the landing starts. So I'm not going to bother with a tween and tween the opacity smoothly. I'm just going to toggle it. So I'm going to turn it visible right here. And when the takeoff starts, I think I'm immediately going to turn it invisible. Okay, so it's not visible now, but if I land, okay, this looks all right. If I take off, it immediately disappears. Yeah, it's not perfect, but should be good enough. Oh, I forgot to check chat once again. Makes sense, might look strange in situations when delta time fluctuates. Exactly. Oh yeah, this was about the lerp versus exponential decay function. Yeah, Freya has this video that explains the whole thing, but it goes way above my head because I suck at maths. But essentially, the problem with using lerp and factoring in data times squared or something in lerp is what some people do. But this will make some jittery stuff if the frame rate is too low sometimes, and the exponential decay function does not do that or something. I think that was the biggest distinction between the two, because you could do the factoring in of delta time in a lerp function as well, but some people do it just by multiplying the factor that is in lerp, the third parameter, with delta time, which is horrible. And I think using it as an exponent or something, I mean the delta time as an exponent is better, but still not great. So that was the bottom line. Good enough for aiming, right? Exactly. Hopefully it will be good enough for aiming. Okay, so what I need to do is to actually use the position of this mouse object, the UI mouse object. So when the shooting is happening, it is in the direction of the mouse instead of what I press on the keyboard or something. So I'm going to look for the player stick function or custom action. This is where the moving part is happening. This is where the shooting part is happening. So the directional input is handled right here. It tries to use the digital one first. So if you're using the WASD keys and also for some reason using the analog stick, then the keyboard's position will override the analog stick. And the same thing happens if you use the D-pad and the analog stick as well. So the analog stick will be the secondary one, which is good for us, I think, because essentially I could do something like allowing the keyboard to override the mouse as well. So you can use the keyboard if you want to shoot in a straight line, for example. So yeah, I just need to hook into the UI mouse object's position. So analog feedback, I mean analog fallback is happening here. So if the analog direction is active on the gamepad, then this happens. Yeah, and this is once again probably going to be a little hacky at first, but it's a jam game, so it's gonna be hacky anyway. I could do something like if the UI mouse object is visible, then I use probably do it right here. So I try to use the mouse, and if there's also analog input on the gamepad, then I use that instead of the mouse. So people can essentially switch around the keyboard and the keyboard mouse or gamepad controls at any time. So it will just handle it gracefully, hopefully. So, okay, if the mouse object is visible, I could do something like this, but for setting the actual angle, I need to do something like angle player.x, player.y, or I should probably use this reference, because for the custom action I do this family type reference, not an object type. So player.x and player.y are the first two parameters, and the third and fourth one should be the mouse, which was called UI mouse, and UI mouse X and Y. I think this could work. Let's see. Am I going to hide the default cursor? That is a fair question. I could do that. I need to, I will probably need to do mouse locking in this case, I think. But yeah, okay, what was I doing? So yeah, let me just drop this barrel. And okay, so this looks all right. And if I start pressing, for example, letter A, then even though I'm clicking right here, it's still shooting in the direction that I specify with the keyboard. If I stop doing that, then it's going to shoot in the direction of the mouse. Yeah, you are completely right, by the way, Bernardo, because yeah, this looks annoying, seeing both cursors. The big question is that can construct hide the mouse cursor if I don't request a mouse lock? Let me just check something. There's this set cursor from sprite and set cursor style action. And essentially, I think I can probably give it a transparent object or something. Or there's this none option in the cursor style, which is nice. So when the 3D mouse cursor is visible, I want the mouse cursor to be hidden, and otherwise I'm going to just restore it to the normal one. Let's see. I'm going to land. My mouse disappeared. And this is neat. However, something else is happening. I'm not clicking the mouse and it's still shooting, because with an analog stick, I have a little variable that that gets set to 1 or 0 depending if the user is pressing on the analog stick. But with the mouse, I also need to handle the mouse button, for example, which is an obvious choice, I think. If you're going to use the mouse to aim, you might as well use the mouse to indicate that you want to shoot. So for this, I think I'm going to do a little extra input instance variable on the player family. So right now, yeah, I just said a little thing through, but yeah, this is going to be fine. So I'm going to define a new variable for the player object, or the player family to be precise, called in shoot, I guess, 0 by default. And if the player is pressing the shoot button, which on the mouse is the left click, I think should be a good candidate, then I'm going to set this to 1. Okay, so I could handle it right here, I think. And I could do it in just one action. So player set value in shoot, and I could just check if the mouse button is pressed or not, which I can do this way. So yeah, I will need to add some conditions. So mouse button is down, left, and otherwise I'm going to do something else. So if the mouse button is down, but why am I doing it here? I should do this right here instead, because this is the event sheet where I handle all the input functions. So I'm just going to say player set value in, whoops, in shoot, if I could type, but I can't. Okay, so if the mouse button is down, I'm going to set in shoot to yes, which is shorthand for 1, and in shoot to no otherwise. So when I am actually handling the mouse-based aiming, I will also need to check if the player really needs to really wants to shoot or not. So by using the analog stick, they won't have to press another button. Just they have to press the analog stick or to set it in a direction. But with the mouse, I think I want them to actually click. So where was I? I should probably put the extra check whether the mouse button is pressed right here. Player variable in shoot is yes. Let's check it out. Okay, so I can't shoot now, and if I land, now I can definitely do it. And if I don't press anything, I'm not shooting, but if I keep pressing the left button on the mouse, then I am shooting in this direction. Good. Also, I don't think I'm going to need this, because shooting can only occur if I'm actually landed anyway, but handling the input is totally fine, even if the mouse cursor is not visible. So if I choose to make it always visible or something, then this is not going to cause a problem. I'm just going to delete it. So yeah. One more thing. Can I move with the mouse right now? Oh yeah, I definitely can, which is, I guess, fine. So, but then I'll probably need to use make the 3D mouse cursor visible. Yeah. So I'm just going to remove these for now. Make the mouse cursor visible by default. And yeah, so now I can essentially move with the mouse as well, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I guess it is. Maybe I should also allow the player to use the beaming stuff with the right click or something. But right now the beaming and the dropping of the cargo is handled by two different keyboard buttons, and I may or may not want that to change anyway. Okay, I'm rambling. I'm going to get back on this topic later, but for now I think I'm just going to leave everything as is. However, we still have this little issue with the mouse positioning. I'm just going to quickly test something. What if I once again make it invisible by default, and the initialization function or custom action should make it visible after the initial position has been set correctly. Why the frick do I still have this little tweening stuff because of the smooth function? This is not doing something correctly. That's the problem. I'm guessing that this is called too early or something, and the mouse position is still not accessible or something, I am going to log some stuff. So when this function runs, I want the mouse's position, or maybe the mouse objects, the UI mouse objects position logged to the console. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely very close to the 0, 0 position, so I don't think this is correct. Now, if the player chooses not to use a mouse, just a keyboard anyway, then maybe I should not do any mouse initialization anyway. So maybe on the first mouse movement I do the initialization instead of right at the beginning of the level. This could also work. On movement, if the mouse object is not visible, I'm going to say UI mouse and init. And I'm also going to disable the current call of the init function or custom action. Sorry for always saying function or custom action, but yeah, construct calls object related functions custom actions. So yeah, okay, it's still happening. What the frick? I should probably move on and fix this off stream or something. So yeah, I'm just going to do that. It's weird. Even if I only do the smooth transition stuff when the mouse is already visible, the UI mouse object I mean, it's still doing this weird thing. Whatever. I'm going to add another to-do comment. Boom. Okay, so player attack digital analog game, including mouse. This is fine for now. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it's working. So I think I'm going to get started on the probe stuff. So, whoops. So this one. So the probe is something that I don't really have a object for. Hi there, Flavius. You please don't say sorry. I'm just glad that you're here. That's totally fine. I hope you had a good afternoon nap or something, and I hope you're doing fine. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And yes, the nerds were here just a second ago or a few minutes ago, and also Tibor. So yeah, and I'm just working on a little gem game that looks like this. And uses a good amount of fake 3D wizardry already. For example, the little beam that connects the player ship or drone or whatever with the barrels is completely on a 2D layer. And it required some trickery to make it look alright, and also to get the Z ordering stuff working fine. So it actually occludes the barrels but does not occlude the player. Yeah, but I really like doing this sort of stuff. I like 2.5D because it has all these opportunity for saucy fakery, essentially. And I just like that. So okay, probes. Okay, this is the one I'm doing right now. So the player will have to place probes on the ground. We have not really decided whether it should be something that you can always just deploy from your ship, maybe in a limited amount or something, or is this something that you need to pick up first, for example at the base or something, and then after you drop it off, it gets activated and starts determining the amount of oil and the cell borders. So yeah, I'm just going to do an implementation somehow, and this may or may not change later, of course, because yeah, this is something that we need to adjust depending on the fun factor and maybe gut feelings and at one point player reactions to our game. So yeah, I'm going to create a little object for the probe, definitely. I always do a little 2D sprite, just like with the enemy. I have an enemy object which is a sprite, but attached to this sprite is an actual 3D model, which comes from the 3D object add-on that I mentioned. It's made by Kind Eye Games, or Mikal, who is a super talented dude who does construct add-ons for features that he misses from the default construct editor. And yeah, one of those is the SSAO add-on, which we also use, and the other one is the 3D model or 3D object add-on, which can use GLB or GLTF files. So these are quite limited anyway. I mean, you can use animations, but you can't really do any tricky surfaces, materials and stuff like this. You can only have a single albedo texture, but this is way more than what we need in this game, so this is just totally fine. I could do with vertex colors, but an albedo texture is also perfect for us. Since the main reason of the drone is to discover and gather resources, it should have at least one probe at start. Definitely, I completely agree. The question is that do we show this whole thing, whether you can drop a probe somewhere on the UI, or maybe, I don't know, above the player. We'll figure this out. But yeah, by default, I agree that there should be a single probe that you can already place somewhere. So yeah. Okay, so I was about to make a new object, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to do the usual stuff, which is just to draw a little circle, which has a little border, possibly. I'm going to make it green this time. Not that it matters, or maybe yellow. And good. And I'm just going to draw this. It's a little sus. I'm going to turn off the grid. Okay, this is better. And I'm going to mark a little direction right here so I can see which way it's facing. Not that it matters with the probe, I think. I hope that Nintendo is not going to sue me, or Namco. Who made Pac-Man? I don't know. I should probably ask Wardstone Studios, because they are definitely not making Pac-Man. Just a game that looks a little bit like a beloved arcade game. But yeah, okay, so this is going to be the sprite that is probably not even going to be visible. I'm going to name it probe. And I'm also going to create a 3D object. I don't think I'm going to use this feature, not that I know, but this does, because maybe you could specify a texture here. I don't know why the animation editor starts when I introduce a new 3D object. And also we need to find a little temporary model for this sort of thing. So for the existing models, except for the big rocky mountain stuff, I use the Kenny Space kit. So I'm just going to look over this and look for something that resembles something like a probe that I want to add to the game, and we'll replace this hopefully in a few days. So I was thinking of like some kind of antenna or something. So far I have not spotted anything like this. Ooh, these look good. Satellite dish, nice. This is also quite good. Not that it matters because I'm going to replace it anyway, so, but you know, I want to add something that looks quite good, even if it's just temporary. So, okay, I think I'm going to go with this one. So satellite dish large is the name of the model. Oops. I'm going to probably need to use Blender for some minor adjustment on the model, because on the previous models I did have to do that. The origin point of the models was a little off center, so I'm going to open Blender, remove the default cube, and also I'm going to find the satellite dish large model, I think. Open it. Maybe not this way. I'm not sure if this is the same as using import. I really don't know anything about Blender, by the way. So, yeah. And damn it. Okay. Please allow me to do this. It does not. Ah, god damn it. 1 second. I hope it's not importing it, yeah, in the background. But now it's not. So, okay, I'm just going to, oh, history, good. So, Kenny Space Kit, models, GLTF, and what was it called? Satellite dish large. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, if I rotate this stuff around, it's not in the middle. So I just need to set this to 0 and also set this to 0, and now it is in the middle, which is good. And the Z position should be on the base of the model, so this is perfect. I am going to save this as a GLB file. Once again, somewhere here. I'm going to call it probe. Boom. And I'm going to go back to construct and import it. So this is just the generic file importer bit. I just need to drag this file and put it right here, hopefully. So now it appears right here. And if I go back to my new 3D object, which I should probably rename to probe 3D, I can just copy the name of this file and put it right here. Add the extension because that's needed. And also I need to specify the scale of it. So the 3D object add-on in construct does not really allow me to resize things. So you can position it wherever you want, but you can't change the size by writing something like this here. It just defaults back to the original one. To change the size, you have to use the scale property. So I'm just going to say it should be something like 10, but yeah, this is too small. So I'm going to change it to 20 or maybe 50. So it's roughly the same size as the little alien. Maybe I should make it a little bigger, I don't know. Let's go with 80. And I have to set its default rotation to something that is acceptable. I'm guessing that I should probably copy the values from this object, which also comes from the Kenny asset pack. So for this, the angle X is set to -90. Let's just see if this fixes it. It definitely does. But yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that the real model that we're going to use is going to have some moving parts, but this I'm not going to implement right now, because this model could also have a moving part. The dish could rotate, but the base should stay the same. I think I would probably do that in either an animation or by using two separate models and by rotating only one of them. But yeah, I'm not going to bother with this. However, I am going to rotate it just for good measure. Not like this, but like this. So it actually faces the correct way. So maybe if I want to add some preliminary rotation visual stuff, then I could still rotate the whole thing. Okay, so the middle is in the middle, which is good. I mean, the origin is right in the middle. So I'm just going to create a hierarchy of these two objects. And I'm going to synchronize some properties, but I'm definitely not going to synchronize the width and the height and the angle. Yeah, the Z elevation I should probably synchronize. And this is it. The angle I could synchronize, but it wouldn't work. So if I start rotating this object, it does not actually rotate the child object if it's a 3D object, a 3D object type, because rotation is done using this angle Z value. So for example, if I put 180 here, then it rotates and it faces down. But I already did something like this in other objects, so this is all right. If I want to make rotation, I can definitely do it, just not expect the default angle property to work in this case. So yeah, now the probe object has this position, and if I select this, it also has the same position, so these are centered correctly. And I am going to think a little about this sort of thing and also check chat. What art can I post in Share Your Art? Well, Flavius, you can pretty much post anything that you made, because why not? Yeah, we have a Discord server, by the way. Thanks for bringing up the attention to this. So if anyone is watching and has the intention of following our little game dev journey, which mostly is about my streams and game updates and stuff like this, we actually do have a Discord server set up. So I'm just going to do this, and the Stream Elements bot actually just dropped the link. So if anyone wants to join our Discord server to get notifications about future streams and future game updates, and possibly to talk to us or share their art or game dev inspirations, we have channels for those, so we would love to have you. Just don't do anything sussy, but we have rules if you want to make sure that you are not doing anything sussy. So yeah, okay, I'm going to save at this point. And also I think, yeah, I was going to think the whole deployment thing through. So if I want the player to drop a building, or to maybe just initialize the building of a structure, let's just say that, how should it look? Should it actually fall from the player ship, or should it just appear on the ground? For now, I'm going to go with the easy way and just make it appear on the ground. So for this to work, I'm going to have to deal with some input, because the player will have to either press a separate button to build something, or I probably could do something like allowing the player to pick up an already placed object. And by dropping it, then, you know, they place it and make sure that it starts working. In the case of the probe, it should start gathering information on the cell that it is dropped in. So, okay. I think I'm going to create a spawner for this. And for the spawner object, I'm going to just quickly make a little sprite by screenshotting this part, which is beautiful, I know. Okay. So I have this spawner object, which has a couple animations. It has one for the player, one for the barrel, the enemy, and 3 different types of decorations. They are all prefixed with Decor 3D, and we have the rock and the platform from the Canny Pack, and the mountain from our 3D artist. So I'm going to create a new animation and call it probe. Paste this beautiful image right here, and maybe crop the extra details if I could do that. Oh yeah, I need to remove the background first. Okay. So this is like, okay, I'm going to center it and make it a square. Crap. I said center it. Okay. Not that it matters how it looks, because the player is not going to see this. This is also only for editing the level. So it's quite easy to determine. I screwed something up, yeah. 1 second, please hold. I know what I did. I resized all the animations instead of just the one. Let's do that again. Okay, so I'm going to remove the background, crop the whole thing, and this time I'm going to untick this so it doesn't apply to all animations, just this one. Right, okay, now it's centered, or maybe it's not centered, I'm not sure, probably not. I don't care about the collision polygon, so I'm just going to set it to the bounding box and yeah, fix the origin point so it's actually centered. So wherever I place a spawner object with the probe animation, then it should spawn a little probe right there. So I'm going to put it right here, so it's right next to the player. And I'm thinking maybe this should also already be working, because the spawner, yeah. So the spawner sprite actually has a little initialization function right here. So whatever animation the spawner is playing when it's initialized, when it's created, the engine will spawn an object with the same name as the animation. So in this case, probe, and then hide the spawner object. And if the spawner object spawns something that is just a decoration, then we actually keep the spawner object on the level because it will act as the collision polygon. Yeah, it's Tesco value solutions, but hey, they work. So yeah, and otherwise I am actually destroying the spawner. So for example, the spawner that spawns the enemies, the player, and the barrels are actually destroyed once they spawn the correct object that they are supposed to spawn. But for the decorations like the rock and the other crappy low poly mountains and the platforms, the spawner object stays there and it has a little collision polygon, as you can see, so right here, and these will make sure that the enemies cannot cross the decorations, so they can't go through them, and the player is also not allowed to drop stuff on top of these objects. And to facilitate that, I use the collision polygon from the original spawner, which just stays on the level. So yeah, this is how it works. This is why I can't drop the stuff here. And there's also this little indication, the little red circle and X. But if I move right here, I can just press Shift to drop. And this is also made using the spawner hitbox stuff. So yeah, okay, so now I actually have a probe in the level, but it does nothing, and also it does not have the correct collision polygon, I think. Right, so yeah, the enemies should also not go near the spawner. I mean, they shouldn't cross it. And let's just see how the barrel works, because this is going to be quite similar, I think. So yeah, the barrel is actually a member of the cargo family, and the cargo family has a couple behaviors on them. So anything that I want the player to pick up and move, I just put in the cargo family. So what I need to do is just to add the new probe object to the cargo family, and this should mean that I should probably be able to pick it up. No, I'm not quite. There was some sussiness, but yeah, I can pick it up, I guess. Okay, this looks a bit weird. I think I know why. There's collision between the player and the new probe object. So let's just see how I set up the collisions for the player. So the player is using the physics behavior in construct to move, and physics behavior uses these little actions called disable physics collisions with something something to set up the collision rules. So right now I think I'm just going to change the barrel stuff to cargo, so the player should not collide with any cargo instead of just not colliding with the barrels. So right now I can fly above the probe. I can pick it up. It looks a little weird, and also it's big, and the player is actually occluding it a little. So yeah, this is tricky, but this we can also fix probably. So I can still drop it, and it still has this nice bouncy animation when I do it. So yeah, more or less it's fine. It's not perfect, but hey, first implementation. Okay, however, this is just only a part of the whole thing because I also want the probe to do stuff. So yeah. Tibor also said something along in chat, so I'm just going to read that. What if, bear with me, there's a bear with you, really? Well, sorry. What if there was a large mothership, in the orbit of the planet/moon, where the player is the large where the player is and the large buildings are called down. Wait, I might have streamer brains already, so I'm just going to reread that sentence. So a large mothership in the orbit of the planet/moon where the player is, and the large buildings are called down. Called down, as in beamed down or something? Probably. So the drone points a laser, and the oil drill/warehouse, etc. comes from outer space. Solid. I guess it could work. So essentially just mark a position where you want the building to be placed, and the building will eventually be placed there. I like it. Of course, we don't need to show the mothership. Just stay in the just say it is in the lower. All right. Okay. This is I'm totally completely sold on that. So what we need to place down are actually small objects, maybe even smaller than the barrels, and definitely not as big as the satellite stuff that I just imported. That's cool. That's totally cool. Okay. And this also means that the player is not actually carrying stuff per se that they need to place. They just mark a position digitally and send the position to the mothership, and we can probably show a little marker on the ground. I like it, Tibor. Thanks. It actually makes my life easier. So yeah, this is totally cool. So what I need to do is to... I'm not even going to need the spawner stuff, I think, for the probe. So what I need to do instead is to create an object, probably a sprite, that will act as like a little bordered line or something, shape or something for the building that is to be spawned there. Okay. Good. But I'm guessing that they could still fall down from the skies, like, or something. Just for fun. Possibly flattening some aliens in the process. Yeah, we might probably want to add some percentage display or something to, or like a countdown or something, so the player can see when the building is actually going to get built there. And now I'm wondering if we could use the same stuff for building anything else. For example, the defense turrets. But I think, yeah, we could do that. Could save on animation stuff, definitely. It carries the probes and barrels. Sorry, what carries the probes and the barrels? Flavius said also, I'm gonna dump all streamer pixel art there. Go for it. Go for it. By the way, the other day I went through your Blue Sky account, and yeah, it's holy crap, you made a lot of stuff. It's freaking amazing. It's really a series. It should be in a museum somewhere, but in our Discord this is also totally fine. So yeah, please do. I really like the pixel art that you make. dumped them all inside. Good. That didn't sound sassy at all. Okay, the drone, right, okay. Yeah, so the drone only carries the... no, sorry, I am probably not understanding it correctly. So the drone, as in the player, carries the probes, does it? Or it only carries the little marker stuff? Okay, so I'm going to get started on making a sprite that is a building marker or something. I'm gonna make it a little bigger. And I'm just going to draw a little circle for now. Crap. Okay. Neat. I could call this like a building plan, blueprint, or I don't know. Building marker? No. Building plan, I'm going to call it for now. And the good thing about construct is that you can actually change the name of objects all the time, and don't worry about it because it refactors stuff automatically. Okay, so the player drone carries the probes since it needs to explore and the extractables. Sorry, it needs to explore the extractables and can move the barrels as it does now. The buildings are sent from space since those are larger than the drone. Right, but the probes are not sent from space because I figured that they should also be sent from space. Depends, I don't know, because I imagine that it's kind of like a building, essentially, like a tower or something. I don't know what our artist is going to make, but we talked about a tower with blinking lights and stuff, so it's not that small. Maybe it should also deploy from space. Okay, so I'm thinking about the UI for the whole building thing, because if the player is using the mouse, then we theoretically could allow them to actually just click somewhere on the ground and with a right click or something, and maybe a little build menu pops up and selects the kind of stuff that they want to build there. The alternative is to not allow this sort of selection, but only allow the player to select a position by hovering over it. So this would also be a little more gamepad compatible, because with the gamepad you can't use a separate positional input, only an angle possibly. But yeah, I think it's fine if we just allow the player to select a building position by hovering over a position and specifying. So if I move here, I'm going to say, okay, it should be a building right here. And maybe in a kind of similar way as we did in copter fields, the player should be able to switch between building modes and carrying modes or something. I don't really remember how we did it there. Let me just pull up this game that we made. Yeah. Okay, so this is something that we made a couple of years ago. Actually, we made it in 2012. Not 12, sorry, 2022. So this was like a little tower defense game, And you also control the drone. Oh, this is not correct. Half of the screen is cut off, but never mind. Okay, so you actually control the little drone that looked like this. I really was into the whole unrailed view mode when I made this. And you could pick up stuff and also drop it down, like trees and rocks and stuff like this. And you could drop it in this enclosed section where the little I don't know, workers actually start breaking down these materials. So you could drop some trees and some rocks right here, and the materials will be broken down and they will show up right here. So I have 12 rocks and 11 wood, and I think I don't recall how okay, so by pressing Q I went to the building mode, and I actually had to choose between 4 different types of buildings: basic tower, high tower, gun turret, and laser turret. So I definitely need a turret and a tower. So I just select the blueprint, I drop it right here. This is kind of similar to what we want to do, but of course we only want the blueprint to mark the position of the building, and the building will actually automatically show up there at one point. But in this game you actually had to separately build a turret and a tower, then place it on top of it, and then after you did that you could drop it somewhere in the playing field. You could also squash enemies if you manage to drop it on top of them. Boom. And the turret actually just started working like in any tower defense game, so they started shooting enemies and stuff like this. And at any one point you can just move all the existing turrets anywhere. And what was the other kind of interesting part was in the game is that you can set up like roadblocks just by placing existing objects like wood and rocks and stuff like this right in the way of the enemies. And you could also drop the wood and the rocks on top of them. So now there is no clear path between this little lava river and the wooded area, the forest. So the enemies will have to go in this route instead. And this would also mean that they are slowed down. So that was the game. We made it for the Toy Box gem, which was a really fun gem. And so far the only gem where we actually used the canned assets that were provided, but that was the main theme for the gem, so you could not draw anything yourself. You just had to use the stuff that was provided. So everything that you can see right here were just 2D asset packs, and by the look of it I think they were made to be Pico 8 compatible, just low resolution stuff with a few colors. Yeah, but of course we couldn't resist and we had to make a fake 3D game, because why not? So yeah, this was the game that we also wanted to at one point turn into something bigger, but then we never did. But when we decided on making this drone pickup stuff for this gem game, of course we went back to this one because it had some ideas that worked quite well, I think. The whole hovering and picking up stuff and dropping stuff bit, but yeah. So essentially what we're gonna need to do is to make something similar with the blueprints that we did in this game. But there is no construction process, just a little countdown or something, and the blueprint will turn into a building at one point. This could work. Oh yeah, Tibor also said that I hope she would use the ideas I drew. Yeah, because there were some concept arts by Tibor for our 3D artist, so hopefully she'll be able to make the models based off on the pixel art concept art. So yeah, okay, I'm going to go back here. Building plan object. This is something that the player will be able to drop. Oh yeah, and we were talking about the whole UI thing. So how do I make it as simple and straightforward as possible? Right now the player only has one mode, which is when they are airborne. They can beam stuff up and drop them using 2 buttons at the moment, but yeah, this might change because we might only need 1 button to do the whole thing. or not, because we can carry many things, so it can be ambiguous at times. Never mind. The point is that we need to make sure that the player can drop stuff for building instead of the cargo that they are carrying. Right. Temporarily, I'm probably going to use just a separate button, and then we'll think about this and come up with a better UI, UX for this. So, okay, for the first implementation, I'm just going to make sure that the player can place a building plan somewhere. Maybe I'm going to add a little flare to this. So the building plan object should be something similar to a spawner, now that I think about it. Maybe it should be a spawner? Yeah, because they actually they actually have the same purpose. There's just stuff that already exists in the world right now, created by spawners. But what if the player could also drop some spawners? Yeah. Yeah, we totally could do that. We just need to change things up a bit, because right now, if there's a spawner in the world, then the created event fires and calls the init function, and it actually already spawns the concrete object. And this would have to change a little bit, because if the player places a spawner directly, then it shouldn't spawn the building, for example, right away, just after a delay. So question is, do I want the player to actually place the spawner, or do I want the player to actually place something else that later places the spawner in the same position? But I think it would be a little more, it should be a little clearer if I only use one object. And in this case, I think yeah, I could totally use these for marking the ground with a little icon and maybe a border or something to show how the building would look there. I can still use the collision polygons to make sure that the building can be placed in the right spot. Yeah, I'm just going to do that. So, okay. However, a little bio break first. I'm going to take like 2 to 5 minutes, not more, because I'm almost out of water, and I think I might grab a little coffee as well, or maybe not. Oh yeah, I could still do that, and also take a little pee break. So yeah, I'll be back in like 5 minutes, and not more, hopefully. So stick around if you want to see where I get with this game. I will probably stream for like another hour or 2 hours after I am back from the break, so BRB. I am back. And also, I think I'm going to switch the music because, yeah, the last track was quite familiar. So far we've been listening to the Planet Crafter soundtrack. I freaking love Planet Crafter, by the way. It's a super chill game with exploration and stuff, and no enemies. So it's really not something like most survival games, even though you can die, but not by violent enemies or stuff like that, just by running out of oxygen or water or food. And this was a good album, but let me grab something else. I actually never listened to the Levelhead soundtrack. I actually never played Levelhead, even though I'm a big fan of Butterscotch Shenanigans, but let's just see how this sounds. Okay. Planet Crafter is indeed incredible, agreed, yeah. The only enemy is your own stupidity. Oh yeah, totally. It's not an easy one to defeat for me, for example. Yeah. I can't remember how many times I died because, hey, I'm gonna have enough water. That labyrinth of a freaking spaceship doesn't look that big. You know, when you have the the big freaking teleport Stargate stuff, and you can explore faraway shipwrecks. Oof. Now that part of the game was quite stressful at times, but yeah, mostly just because I didn't bring enough stuff, so yeah. Okay, so spawners. I'm going to use spawners. I'm also going to turn down my music background volume. Please let me know if the music is too loud for you guys as well. I just prefer it to be quite quiet so I can hear myself. Okay, right. So if I allow the player to use the spawner object to spawn stuff, what do I need to change? I will probably need to spawn an actual spawner object below the player that doesn't activate right away. That is the key. Because the stuff that is already placed on the map when the game begins should be activated right away. And this is a big distinction, because when the player is hovering around and switches to building mode, a spawner object should just become visible right below them with the same position. And they should just be able to switch between the type of buildings that the player can actually spawn there. This is also going to be a little data store or something, where I just specify the names of the objects that can be spawned. Right. And after they place one of these spawners, the spawner should also have some kind of timer that when it expires, it actually hides the spawner and actually spawns in the object, like the probe or one of the defense turrets or something. Okay, or the actual oil rig is also going to be one of the buildings that the player will be able to create and place anywhere in the world that is a good spot for them. Okay. So I'm going to think this through. I definitely don't need this object right now because building plan is obsolete at this point. I just want the player to have a spawner attached right below them. However, at first I need to take care of this issue that spawners created in the world also automatically spawn whatever they are supposed to spawn. So let's just open the spawner action sheet, because it's not an event sheet per se, it only has this single custom action. So the spawner object has this init custom action that spawns another object right away, and this is called by, I believe, right here. So whenever a spawner is created, the init custom action is already called automatically. So instead of this, I think I want to change stuff up a little bit. So init should be okay to be called, or maybe we don't even need it. Thinkity think. I really need to distinguish between the spawners that are placed on the level at the beginning and spawners that are not, and they are placed dynamically. And to do that, I'm thinking I should probably use an instance variable, which is set by default. Yeah, I think this could work. So the spawner is not a member of a family, so I'm just going to create an instance variable right on it. And how do I call it? So is automatic. No, this is not great. So this is the instance variable that will be true on all the spawners that are in the world on the level layout, and it will be false on the spawner that is attached to the player. So yeah, I'm going to just name it haphazardly and maybe change it later. So is auto spawner. Oof, this is horrible, but never mind. And by default, I'm going to say it should be yes or 1. So all these instances now have the is auto spawner instance variable with the value 1. However, I'm also going to copy one of these little spawners and maybe move some stuff around a little bit, so I actually have some more room. Okay, so this is the player object. It already it is made up of a couple separate objects. So the player object is actually right on the ground. There's the player telegraph that is also on the ground. It has separate animations for showing feedback to the player whether they can pick stuff up or drop stuff somewhere. And there's also the player ship 3D object, which is the stuff that is actually hovering above the ground or on the ground if you are landing it. So what I need to do is create a new spawner instance with the isAutoSpawner property set to 0. I could use booleans, but I don't like using booleans in construct, and internally construct, as far as I know, also just deals with numbers, even if you set up a boolean data type. So yeah, okay, I'm going to change this to probe. And and I'm going to attach it to the player object. So I'm going to select this and create a hierarchy between the two. So when the player is moving, the spawner is, should also move. So I'm just going to remove the check marks. So I don't want the spawner object to synchronize its Z elevation or angle or anything like that with the player. Maybe it should synchronize the Z elevation, possibly, but the Z elevation of the player is not the Z elevation of the player 3D object stuff. So the player sprite is actually on the ground all the time, and it does have a little funky Z elevation tweening setup because the ground is not even. But yeah, this shouldn't affect us, I think. So what I'm going to do is just to center the whole thing like this, and also I'm going to change some stuff. So the spawner's init function should only run as the way it runs right now if this new instance variable is set to 1. So I'm going to say spawner variable compare instance variable is auto spawner yes. Then I'm going to create the whole object stuff. I mean, the spawner is going to spawn something. So right now, if I run the game, everything is still there, which is good. So the spawners are still working. However, I also want this spawner to be visible, and right now it is not. I wonder why. Because initially visible is set right here. I'm going to check something quickly by running the debug mode. So I'm going to look for some spawners. There are quite a few. And this one is right below the player seemingly, which is good. But yeah, this is the original player spawner, so this is not the one that I'm looking for. Yeah, this is probably not the best way to do it, but I'm just going to click through these. I can't really find the right one. Sus. Okay, so spawner, it is attached to the player, right? Okay, it is. And it has the is-auto-spawner stuff set to 0, because if it's set 1, the player would also automatically spawn a probe right below them. So yeah, it's definitely in the game. Okay, but something's not happening the way I want it to happen. So the initializing stuff is running right here, and it only destroys the spawner if, yeah. So for non-auto spawners, they should just still show up. But I also have a hunch that maybe the terrain is occluding it or something. Because when I'm spawning the player, crap, where was I? Okay, so when I'm spawning the player, I'm also using the spawner. And it actually spawns the player on the layer that was the layer of the spawner, which is the main layer. However, in the player's init function or custom action, I'm actually playing around a little bit with the layers, although this might not be something that I need to do right here because I'm already spawning the, no, okay, yeah. So by default, I'm spawning the player on the main layer and I'm moving the player telegraph right here. So, okay, let me just check something real quick. So I want the player spawner to be picked as well. Player pick children spawner. And for now, I'm just going to say spawner set Z elevation to, I don't know, 30. So I can definitely see the, what happened? Oh, üdv! Szervusz Ádám, feltételezem, hogy magyar nyelven kommunikálsz. Yeah, this is a bilingual stream, guys. Halihó, mi a helyzet? Hogy telik a pénteked? Illetve, ha nem bánod, hogy megkérdezem, hogy kerültél ide? Also, I am not seeing what I want to see still. So, this was not the issue, I think. Or maybe it was. Let me just set this to a higher value. I don't remember how big the terrain bumpiness is allowed to go up. But yeah, I still can't see the spawner. Szarul, de büszkén böngészted a kategóriát? Nagyon király. Hát üdv itt, akkor még ezek szerint gyanús, hogy nem biztos, hogy jártál már itt. Én Fodi vagyok, és webfejlesztőből lettem nagyjából játékfejlesztő. Hobby szinten csinálom elsősorban, nem csak, de főleg. És a Havi egy játék nevezetű Game Jam sorozatra csinálunk éppen egy játékot, amit már február óta csinálunk, tehát február óta minden hónapban csináltam egy játékot erre a jamre, ami egy ilyen remek kis magyar közösségi jam, mindig megadnak 3 témát, meg egy módosítót, és akkor azokból kell valamit főzni. Általában nem szoktam egy hónapot tölteni a játékoknak a készítésével, most is csak egy néhány hét lesz az, most jelen esetben kb. 2 héttel a határidő előtt kezdtük el az cuccot csinálni, és jelenleg így néz ki. Úgyhogy, ja. Milyen engine? A Construct 3, ami egyébként elsősorban egy 2D engine, de amint látod, azért vannak 3D szituációk itt a képernyőn, vannak 3D modellek, meg a talaj is egy ilyen egyenetlen felület, az pedig azért, az pont az engine azt tudta gyárilag is. Van egy ilyen mesh torzítás, amit rá lehet küldeni 2D objektumokra, és akkor azzal lehet ilyen egyenetlen felületeket csinálni. Van egy nagyon pici ilyen kamuárnyék, az SSAO, tehát Ambient Occlusion, és akkor ezekből főzünk valamit, ami ilyen félig meddig 3D, de a Construct 3 egyébként, nem tudom, hallottál-e már róla, de ha nem, akkor úgy kezeled, hogy az egy 2D engine egyébként, csak nagyon korlátozott 3D funkciók is vannak benne, meg egy lelkes csapat, akik egy kis közösség, inkább úgy mondanám, akik megcsinálnak mindenféle plusz pluginokat hozzá, addonokat. Egész pontosan például 3D modelleket lehet importálni vele, és akkor emiatt tud működni ez a sztori. De 3D kamera az van gyárilag is a Constructban, meg ilyenek, csak például az egész fizikai rendszer, ami az engine-ben van, az teljesen 2D, tehát az X és Y koordináta tengelyen működik, az én már nem. Milyen programozási nyelvet használok? A Constructnál úgy van, hogy vagy az van, hogy a Constructnak a beépített, mondjuk úgy vizuális programozását lehet használni, ami így néz ki. úgy hívják, hogy Event Driven Programming, ami leginkább ugye eseményorientált programozásnak fordítanám. Gyakorlatilag azt csinálod, hogy definiál szabályokat, amik bizonyos feltételek esetén futnak le. Így néz ki egy esemény, de mindjárt keresek egyébként valamiatt, ami egy fokkal tömörebb, meg átláthatóbb. Tehát itt van például egy ilyen esemény, amit kijelöltem. A eseménynek a bal oldalán vannak a feltételek, jelen esetben az, hogy ha nyomva van tartva a W gomb, vagy ha nyomva van tartva a gamepadnek a D-padjának a fölfele nyila, és akkor csinálok egy olyat, és ez az eseménynek a jobb oldala, itt vannak az actionok, ezt nem tudom magyarul, hogy érdemes fordítani, de itt adod meg igazából, hogy mi történjen, amikor ezek a feltételek teljesülnek. És akkor itt jelen esetben azt csinálom, hogy a játékos objektumnak van egy változója, aminek ezen neve, hogy indir day up, és ezt beállítom yes-re, ami igazából egy makró, tehát az csak egy szám, egy konstans, aminek az értéke 1. És akkor itt van egy elszág, tehát hogyha bármilyen nyelven programoztál, biztos találkoztál ugye ezzel az if-else cuccossal, és akkor az van itt rögtön, és akkor a fölötte lévő eseménynek az ellentétje fut le itt, mármint a feltétel, és akkor itt meg tudom adni, hogy ha pedig ugye nem nyomja a W-t vagy a D-padnak a fölfele gombját a játékos, akkor ezt a változót állítsuk no-ra, ami meg a nullát jelenti. Használhatnék rá booleant is, meg ilyenek, de nem úgy szoktam csinálni, hanem van nekem egy ilyen kis globális konstansom, aminek az a neve, hogy no, abban nulla van, meg egy yes, aminek egyes a tartalma, és akkor ezzel szoktam átárolgatni, hogyha valami igaz-hamis szituáció van. És akkor gyakorlatilag így épül fel az egész. Lehet egyébként, hogyha ez nem szimpatikus valakinek, akkor JavaScript vagy TypeScript nyelven is gyakorlatilag mindent csinálni, amit ezzel a esemény alapú cuccossal lehet, de én általában ritkán szoktam használni, ugyanakkor ennél a játéknál is használok benne külső JavaScript library-t, és akkor azzal interfészelek. Ha itt ezt megnyitom, ez az összes kód, amit írtam körülbelül. Ez a játék, ez pont egy olyan gemre készül, aminek a témája az volt, hogy Voronoi. Nem tudom, megvan a Voronoi diagram, de amit itt látsz ezekből a pályán, itt ezek a határvonalak, ezek ilyen Voronoi cellák, mindegy, nem akarok nagyon belemenni, az a lényeg, hogy nagyon okos emberek csináltak egy D3 nevezetű JavaScript library-t, amivel lehet ilyen Voronoi diagramokat, meg ilyen random generált cuccokat létrehozni, tehát a matek részét nem kellett megcsinálnom, csak be kellett rántanom a library-t, ami egy ilyen letölthető JS fájlban ott volt, és írnom kellett egy ennyi kis ragasztó kódot hozzá, amivel utána azt, amit legenerált az a külső library, ezt a Voronoi diagramot, ezt akkor el fogom tudni érni így a pályageneráló résznél, amit mindjárt megmutatok, hogy hol van, valahol itt. Tehát itt van az, látszik is, hogy itt, tehát itt a kódot is be tudok írni egyébként az eseményekbe, és akkor itt van ez a generate map funkció, amit meghívok, az, ami itt található, megadom neki a paramétereket, és a legvégén azt csinálja csak, hogy visszatölt egy ilyen Voronoi diagramot egy objektumba, és akkor utána azt el tudom érni, és itt már az a rész van, amikor felrakom ezeket a határvonalakat a mapra, illetve a minimapra, mert hogy úgymond, tehát van a világban is egy ilyen vonal, és akkor ezeket egyesével rajzolom fel attól függően, hogy ugye milyen pozíciók voltak, milyen pozícióval összekötve, meg itt van a jobb alsó sarokban egy kis minimap is, ami meg egy canvas, hogyha JavaScriptben programoztál, vagy ilyen webes sztorikban benne vagy, akkor az onnan lehet ismerős, és akkor arra is tudok pixeleket rajzolni. Ennyi, így működik az utcos. És akkor ezt az event-based szituációt használod. Pontosan, igen. Főleg, már mint látod, egy nagyon kicsi JavaScript ebben pont van, de a legtöbb játéknál, amit szoktam csinálni, ott egyébként egyáltalán nem is használok külön megírt JavaScriptet, csak akkor, amikor valamilyen menő külső libet kell használni mondjuk, vagy hát majd egyszer lehet, hogy lesz olyan is például, hogy valami annyira szét kell valamit optimalizálnom például, ott jöhet még jól a JavaScriptnek a TypeScript, ahol gyorsabban tud lefutni az adott kód, hogyha te megírod kézzel, úgy optimalizálva, ahogy kell, ahelyett, hogy ezt az event rendszert használod a constructban. De egyelőre, mondom, mivel úgyis ilyen gemes játékokat szoktam csinálni, tehát hogy ezek megvannak így ugye néhány hét alatt, meg ilyenek, meg csak prototípusok, meg ilyenek, tehát nem egy Steam-es megjelenésem az még nincsen, vagy megjelenésünk, mert amúgy nem egyedül dolgozok ezen a játékon, ezt is mindjárt kifejtem. De lényeg a lényeg, hogy mivel ezek ilyen félig-meddig összerakott játékok, ezért nem nagyon szokott gond lenni abból, hogy jaj, de nagyon kevés az FPS vagy ilyesmi, és nem nagyon kellett rommá optimalizálni még semmit. Ez egyébként a Jamnek az oldala, hogyha ismered az itch nevű oldalt, akkor itt mennek folyamatosan game jamek, ahol megadnak témákat, meg határidő van hozzá, és ennek a havi egy játékos csapatnak a novemberi jam az látható itt. És mi akkor ezt a Voronoi nevezetű témát választottuk most ki ez a játékhoz. Plusz van egy módosító, amit opcionálisan lehet használni, az meg az, hogy Only 3D. És akkor, hát kis túlzásra a 3D a játék, amit csinálunk, úgyhogy szerintem remélhetőleg arra is megkapjuk a pontot, ami amúgy nem ér nagyon sok minden, csak ilyen bragging rights, ahogy szokták mondani, tehát hogy lehet vele menőzni, hogy neked egy évben hány pontot lehet, hogyha beküldesz egy játékot, és használtál egy témát, akkor kapsz valamennyi pontot, ha használtál hozzá a módosítót, akkor meg még többet. Ennyi kb. Nagyon jó fejközösség. Unity-n nem gondolkoztam nem nagyon. Az igazság, hogy nekem a Construct az annyira testhez álló, hogy nem igazán gondolkoztam semmilyen más engine-en. Nem mondom, hogy nem próbáltam ki nagyon felületesen a Unity-t, meg a Godot is egyébként, de az igazság, hogy én Constructban nagyon hamar meg tudok oldani dolgokat, amiket biztos vagyok benne, hogy sokkal tovább tartana megoldani Unity-ben, meg Godotban. És mivel a figyelmem az véges, ezért egyelőre inkább csinálok olyan dolgokat, amik korlátozottabbak sokkal, tehát hogy a Construct az sokkal inkább bezár egy dobozba, tehát a Unity-ben sokkal brutálabb dolgokat meg lehet csinálni, viszont több idő kell hozzá, vagy nagyon sok tapasztalat, amihez nyilván sok idő kell megint csak, úgyhogy nekem az annyira nem való, de hogyha egyszer eljön az a pont, amikor azt mondom, hogy hát most már a Construct túlságosan korlátoz, akkor tudja, hogy vagy a Unity-t, vagy a Godot fogom én is választani, és azzal tovább menni. De egyelőre még ez a pont az nem jött el. Ha már itt tartunk, te mit nyomadsz egyébként? Mert feltételezem, hogy te is fejlesztesz, már csak a dev szócskából a neved alapján. Nyugodtan fejtsd ki, illetve hogyha esetleg van kedved, akkor és van saját projekted, mondjuk valami játék vagy ilyesmi, akkor nyugodtan belinkelheted. Annyi a trükkje, hogy itt a Twitch chaten le vannak tiltva a linkek, és ez itt a bújtatott reklámhelye, van egy Discordunk, szóval hogyha netán van kedved, akkor oda be tudod dobni a linket, és nagyon szívesen rá is tekintek, akkor, hogyha Twitch-tos barát a cucc, hogyha van bármi játékod, vagy ilyesmi, esetleg netán. Lehet, hogy kicsit előre szaladtam ezzel a dologgal. Na de mindegy, ha netán van, akkor nyugodtan oszd meg velünk. Meanwhile, I'm going to switch back to English, finish my coffee, and get back a little to this development stuff that I started. I think I'm going to close that. I will not need this anymore. And yeah, so I was trying to find out why the spawner is not showing up below the player. Something is sus. Let me just check. What if I move all the way here? No, still nothing. Okay, this is weird. I'm also going to check something that is a little tricky. I'm just going to remove all spawners. And oh yeah, this is not good. I need the player spawner, definitely. So I'm just going to select all spawners and deselect the player spawner and delete everything. And now if I run the game, the player should spawn. And now there should be 2 spawners, I think. However, that's not the case because the player only has the original spawner that I left. Okay, so this is some kind of spawning issue, I would say. So this object is actually not spawning for some reason, which is weird. So we need to debug this. And I really hope that it is a bug that I made and not something else. But usually it is. I can rest assured. Közben olvasok csetet, azt mondja, hogy erősen gondolkoztam rajta, hogy elkezdjek, le is töltöttem a Unity-t, de nincsen rá sok időm. Hát igen, ez klasszikus probléma sajnos. Magamtól tanulgattam kódolgatni, HTML, CSS, JS, Svelte, azt hiszem, ha jól ejtem ki, egyéb frameworkök, Node.js, stb. PHP bóckodások, Lua, akkor nagyon sok mindenben vele kóstoltál, még C# is, az kemény. Ja. Hát ez figyelj, úgy van leginkább egyébként, hogy ahogy elkezdted, ez itt tök jó. Kipróbálod, és ha valami nagyon megtetszik, akkor azt tolod, feltéve, hogy van rá időd. Nyilván, ha nincs rá időd, akkor az trükkös, de nyilván, hogyha olyan az élethelyzeted, hogy tud lenni szabadidőd, és azt a szabadidőt egyre inkább azon veszed észre magad, hogy ilyen dolgokra, tehát mondjuk kódolásra szánod, akkor annak tudja, hogy meg lesz az eredmény előbb, úgyhogy előbb-utóbb. Also welcome, I'm going to try to pronounce your name. Baltmon Zygote, I guess, but please let me know if I'm butchering your name, and I'm already sorry. I just discovered your channel. Good luck with your 3D project. Sounds promising. Thank you so much. Thanks for popping in, and I really appreciate the nice words as well. I really hope that we're gonna meet the deadline, and yeah, which is 11 days from now, so hopefully. Adam also said, van egy roadmap-es oldal, ahol fent van minden, onnan kezdtem el, na azt pont nem ismerem, mindjárt fel is írom magamnak. Sulizol, oké, akkor még te valószínűleg nagyon fiatal, vagy szemtelenül fiatal, nem úgy, mint én. Ezt jól felírom magamnak, roadmap.sh, good. Még sulizok és agyon terelnek minket, fú, hát igen, azt megértem, az nagyon gázos, ami a remek oktatási rendszerünkben jelenleg történik, és főleg ez a része, hogy semmi szabadidőt nem adnak nektek. Flavius also asked, how do I say welcome in Hungary? Well, there's a couple of ways to say that. Yeah. Adam actually got you. Üdvözöllek is not very formal, but you know, it's welcome, essentially. And you can shorten it to üdv, which is just, yeah, same as welcome, but yeah, or welcome in, it's the same. So yeah, Adam got you the right answer, Flavius. You can always use these international greetings. Well, okay. So, meanwhile, I am struggling with this spawner stuff still a little bit. It's sus. Okay, let me retrace my steps meanwhile. So every time a spawner object is created, the init custom action or function is running. If the spawner object had the isAutoSpawner variable set to yes, which is just shorthand for 1, it's a number, then the spawner's logic just runs, and in the end it gets destroyed or it's made invisible possibly or something. But if this is not satisfied, this condition, then the spawner should just stay there and do nothing. And right now, this object, I would say, is exactly this kind because it has the isAutoSpawner variable set to 0. So when the player is created, the spawner object should also be created, and it should just stay there, and as the player is moving around, the Z elevation, maybe, no, this is not the issue, but just for good measure, I'm going to check this out. If I don't check this, something else happens. But yeah, I'm guessing that something else is up. Yeah. Weird. Okay. For now, I think I'm going to remove all the other spawners from the game, but just so I don't screw up anything, I'm going to duplicate this level and keep it as a backup of all the instances that are on the level. So once again, I'm going to select all spawners except for the one that spawns the player and remove them. And if I run the game with Shift and F4 in a debug mode, what I should see is that there are 2 spawner instances. However, there's only one spawner instance right here, which is not great. This is the one that spawned the player, but the player should also spawn a spawner, and now I'm having bad thoughts. What if there's some kind of recursion? No, but there shouldn't be, because the player spawner should not spawn anything else, so this is freaking weird. I'm definitely missing something. Right, I'm going to add some more logging, I think. So right here, I'm going to say browser log and created spawner.animation name spawner with UID something, spawner.uid. Okay, so now there should be 2 messages, but I have a hunch there's only going to be 1. So created probe spawner, and there's also created player spawner. Okay, so this probe spawner actually is born to this world, which is good. It has a UID of 105 in this case. But then where the frick is it? It gets destroyed for some reason. This is a bit sus. I wonder if I destroy spawners somewhere else. Good thing about construct is that I can just do this, find our references, and filter it down to destroy. So yeah, this should just give me all the parts of the code that destroys a spawner. So this is the one that I was talking about, and the other one is right here. But this also doesn't apply because this is for the decorations. Also, sorry, I tend to forget to check chat. Már is csekkolom, hogy mit írtatok. Jesus, those are some long words. Yeah. Eltöredezettségmentesítő. Úristen, azt nem fogom tudni kiolvasni. Okay, so this is the long word that Adam wrote, but yeah. Yeah. Mi ennek a versenynek a neve, amit említettem, hogy arra készülök? Hunjam a sorozatnak a neve, úgymond. Figyelj, mindjárt dobok itt linket egyébként, az lesz a legegyszerűbb. Szóval nem Hunjam, hülyeséget beszélek. Az a múlt hónapban volt. Arra is mentünk, az is egy magyar game jam, viszont abból évente egy van, és van ez a havi egy játék cuccos. Bedobom ide a linkjét. És ez úgy van, hogy minden hónapban egyszer, általában így a hó elején van egy ilyen témahirdetés, amikor megadják, hogy a következő hónapban mik közül lehet választani, és akkor itt be is van linkelve a novemberi Game Jam. És akkor náluk ez a formátumos jelenleg, hogy mindig 3 téma van, abból legalább egyet kell választani, aki nagyon keménynek érzi magát, az választott egyszer többet is persze, és van mindig egy opcionális módosító, az itt a 4., amit szintén ha akarsz használsz, ha nem akarsz nem használsz. És kb. Ennyi. Itt a Jamnek az oldalán le van írva egyébként, hogy az egész sztori hogy működik, tehát ezt el tudod olvasni, de a lényeg az az, hogy be kell a végén adni határidőre egy játékot, itt ezen az itch oldalon lehet beküldeni, hogyha itt rányomnék, hogy Join Jam, akkor utána tudnám a szintén akár itchre feltöltött játékot beküldeni. Ja, jut eszembe egyébként. Van egy ilyen link is, amúgy, hogyha netán valaki ki akarja próbálni. Ugyanis mindent, amit csinálok jelenleg a streamen, azt föl szoktam ide tölteni, még így a stream közben. So yeah, I'm going to just repeat this in English as well. So if any of you guys want to give the game a try, I mean, it's not a game yet, but give the current build of the game a try, you can use the link that I just dropped in chat. And this is build 11, so not the current one that I'm building, but once I figure out this spawner stuff, I'm going to make a new build so you guys can test the whole thing right away. But right now, if you want, you can definitely reach the game at this URL. Visszatérve magyarra, tehát hogy a havi egy játék is ezt az itch platformot használja, itt van ugye a Jam is, meg ide lehet feltölteni a játékokat is. A Unity-ben készített játékokból is tudsz csinálni, ha akarsz ugye ilyen webes buildet, és akkor rögtön ugyanúgy tud működni a böngészőben, mint ahogy most ez a játék is. Minden, ami Constructban készült, az kapásból webes build, tehát hogy abból elsősorban webes build van, és be lehet csomagolni Windowsra, Linuxra, Macre, meg még egy pár dologra néha. Mindegy. Tehát az a lényeg, hogy feltöltöd az itch-re, bekülded itt a Jam oldalára, és utána vársz. És hogyha netán Budapesten tartózkodsz alapértelmezetten, a havi egy játéknak van egy ilyen meetupja is minden hónapban, az in-game nevezetű kocsmában, ami mindig egy szerdai napra szokott esni. Jelen esetben ugye most 6. a határidő, ami egy kedd, és akkor itt most azt hiszem, hogy talán 7-én lesz, ha csak nem lesz egy héttel később, mert néha nem pont rögtön utána van, de általában 7-én, tehát hogy általában egy nappal később a határidő előtt, vagy után van ez az összejövetel az in-game nevű helyen. És akkor ott kivetítőn a szervezők kipróbálják mindenkinek a játékát, hogyha valaki ott van helyben, akkor be tudod mellé ülni, és akkor kicsit ott meginterjúztatják, hogy milyen volt, meg hogy csinálta a dolgokat, meg ilyenek, marha jó, meg mindenki nagyon-nagyon jó fej. És ennyi. És akkor a végén van ilyen díjátadószerűség, tehát ugye mivel pontokat lehet gyűjteni a beadott játékokért, ezért amikor összegyűlik X mennyiségű pontod, akkor kapsz ilyen kis 3D nyomtatott trófeákat, nagyon menő cuccok, de amúgy leinkább ez egy ilyen jelképes dolog, illetve nincs konkrétan a játékoknak nincs értékelése. Viszont vannak olyan jamek is az itchen, brutálisan sok jam van, tehát hogyha érdekel a game jammelés, és érdekeljen, mert marha jó dolog, akkor itt találsz rengeteg game jamet, ahol szintén hasonló formátum van, és általában azzal is együtt jár ez, hogy ezek online jamek, tehát hogy ezt bárki be tud szállni, neten keresztül beküldeni a cuccot, és utána, amikor lejárt a határidő, akkor lehet egymásnak a játékait értékelni, kommenteket írni rá, meg ilyenek, és általában tök jó fejek az emberek, tehát hogy nem kell arra számítani, hogy mindenki szét fogja fikázni a játékot, még akkor sem, hogyha nem lett olyan jó. És ennyi. És vannak olyan jamek, ahol van pontszámos értékelés is, és van nyertes, meg ilyenek. Vannak olyan jamek, aminél ez csak azzal jár, hogy elmondhatod, hogy megnyerted. Vannak olyanok, ahol lóvét is le lehet akasztani érte, meg ilyenek. Hát ja, itt elég sok opció van az itchen. Most például indul hamarosan ez a Tobu Jam, amit egy belga streamer páros szervez, és konkrétan bő 2 óra múlva indul, ennek is lesz egy témája, és ez most csak így hétvégén tart, tehát ez 22-től 25-ig tart. Amúgy a páros, akit említettem, ők a Tobugis, és mindjárt csinálunk nekik egy shoutoutot, hogyha tudok olyat csinálni. Please let this work. I never do this sort of thing. Yes. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat that. Tobugis are actually making a little jam that starts in 2 hours. So this is also a game jam. I was talking about game jams in Hungarian, and yeah, this is also a game jam that I may or may not do, even though I'm already doing one. But yeah, I might take a little extra time off this weekend and hopefully join this. If the theme will be a good one, we'll see. I really hope that it will be, because some of my game dev friends are also partaking in this jam, and I really want to do that too. Ja, szóval visszatérve, itch, jamek, nagyon sok van, ajánlom. Hogyha még nem csináltad, akkor csináld, mert ennél jobb dolog nincs egyébként, ami rávisz arra, hogy kipróbáld, hogy tényleg milyen játékot csinálni. Mert amíg csak tutoriálokat csinálsz, Ádám, addig az nem ugyanaz. Amikor már összeraktál tényleg valamit, föltöltötted valahova úgy, hogy azt mások is lássák, az tök más, és egyáltalán nem kell tőle beparázni, mert rengeteg olyan jam van, ami direkt kezdőknek van például, és tényleg mindenki nagyon jó fej. És ja, támogat mindenki abban, hogy csinálj te is minél többet, és minél többször, mert a jameknek az a lényeg általában, hogy ott, amikor befejezted a jamet, akkor általában ott a fejlesztés is lezárul. Nyilván mindenki az elején még megígéri, hogy és majd még teszünk bele ilyet és meg olyat, és én is ezt rendszeresen csinálom, aztán általában hát még talán egy 2 hétig mondjuk, hogy valami még frissítgetem, meg javítgatom picit, de aztán ott kell hagyni, menni kell a következőre, és szerezni még több tapasztalatot. Jap, közben nézek csatot is, bocsász, megint lemaradtam. I'm really doing this bilingual thing, but I might be struggling a bit with it. Miről fog szólni ez a játék? Mármint amin most dolgozok konkrétan, vagy mert most lehet, hogy elkavarodtam, vagy ez a másik james cucc. Közben Echo TSX, ha jól mondom, szép napot, neked is szép napot, remélem, hogy minden frankó feléd is. Üdvít. Construct 3-ban van 3D, kind of, igen. Már is mutatom, hogy mi a szitu. By the way, for anyone who does not understand Hungarian, this is the first time that I set my streams language to, no, probably not the first time, but lately I've set my streams language to English, because I primarily speak during the streams in English, but this time I figured that I should maybe try setting it to Hungarian, so I could attract some Hungarian viewers, even though I don't plan on completely switching to Hungarian, but I want to give the bilingual thing a go. But if it turns out to be a bad idea, if I get feedback that, okay, this is just bad for everyone listening in who is not bilingual, then I'm not going to do that anymore, but this is like an experiment for now, so if someone starts talking to me in Hungarian, I'm just going to reply in Hungarian, and that's just how it goes for now. Thanks, Bernardo. I'm glad that you picked up enough during this little segment that you understood everything perfectly. That's great. Flavius, by the way, do you know, I mean, I'm guessing that you maybe know some Hungarian expressions, but not a lot, right? I mean, you just asked how to greet people in Hungarian, so I'm guessing that you don't have a big vocabulary, but you do know a couple expressions, right? Just a few. I even taught Tobugis, who I just mentioned before, an expression called, that is in Hungarian, egészségedre, which is just cheers when you're drinking something or consuming something. You can just say that. This is one of the great expressions that we usually teach non-Hungarian speakers, because if you meet someone who doesn't speak Hungarian in an IRL context, then you may or may not always end up drinking something, and egészségedre is exactly the thing that goes with this situation. Szóval, visszaváltok közben egy picit. Igen, a Construct 3D-ben, vagy a Construct 3-ban a 3D kérdése, tehát a kérdés nagyon jogos. Megérkezett az elmúlt 1-2 évben több 3D feature is a Constructba. Ilyen például, hogy 3D shape, ami leginkább egy kockát takar, aminek adhatsz textúrákat. Ez benne van gyárilag a Constructban. Van 3D kamera, azt most azért nem találom már itt a listában, mert az én játékomban az már itt van bent. És a 3D kamerának lehet tetszőleges pozíciója, és tetszőleges pozícióra nézhet rá. Tehát, hogy az tényleg egy rendes 3D kamera. Viszont továbbra sincs 3D fizika, és továbbra sincsen nagyon megoldva a 3D mozgás sem, bár a Z-tengelyen, ami ugye mondjuk úgy merőleges a layoutnak így a mostani X és Y tengely által képzett síkra. Tehát a Z-tengelyen is tudsz mozgatni dolgokat, de azt neked kell megoldani. Tehát jelen esetben például ebben a játékban itt ezzel a kis űrhajóval, amit tudok mozgatni, itt ugye az X és Y koordináta mentén mozgok, és hogyha megnyom az X-et, akkor leszállok. Tehát ilyenkor a Z-tengely mentén csinálok egy mozgást, ezt egy twinnel egyébként, semmi extra, de ettől függetlenül a beépített viselkedések, amik a Constructban vannak, azok nincsenek explicit fölkészítve arra, hogy 3D-ben is működjenek, tehát továbbra is egy 2D engine, csak néhány ilyen vizuális 3D csel van már benne. Illetve az a kis árnyék szituáció, amit látsz, meg hogyha elindítom ezt a másik pályát, akkor ez még szembetűnőbb. Szóval, hogy van egy ilyen kis árnyékszerű dolog itt a hordók körül, meg a alienek körül, az SSAU nevezetű effekt, Ambient Occlusion, ami szintén nem a Constructnak a része, hanem csak egy ilyen külön bővítménnyel lehet betenni, amit egy Mikál nevű srác csinált. És a 3D modellek pedig, tehát hogy ami nem csak kocka, hanem tényleg rendes 3D modell, amit mondjuk Blenderben összeraksz előtte, azok pedig úgy kerültek be, hogy szintén van egy addon, aminek az a neve, hogy 3D Object, és hogyha azt föltelepíted a Constructhoz, akkor utána be tudsz tenni GLB vagy GLTF formátumban lévő 3D modelleket a játékodba, és akkor azokat ugyanúgy tudod kezelni, ahogy a 2D elemeket. Tehát itt van például a kis eneminek van egy saját sprite-ja, az az, amit én konkrétan mozgatok, annak van mondjuk physics viselkedése, azt tologatom balra-jobbra, és van egy külön objektum, ami pedig maga a modell, ez egy ilyen 3D object típusú cuccos, és akkor ha ezt bezoomolok, akkor látszik is, hogy ez itt bizony 3D. Be van téve egy alien 1.glb file, ami itt található. Blenderből kimentettem előtte GLB-ben, ide behúztam, és akkor boom, működik. Remélem, hogy ez lefette a kérdésedet, de hogyha bármi egyéb dolog fölmerül, akkor nyugodtan jöhet. Also, let me just check chat again. Tibor also said something along the lines of, first, Bernardo said something. You were saying you are the one and only Construct 3 expert, right? Yeah, no, definitely not. The drawback is that you repeat stuff in 2 languages. Yeah, I try not to repeat stuff, but yeah, sometimes I do. The important stuff I'm going to keep repeating. I thought he said he's the king of Construct. Oh yeah, I definitely said that. Yeah, not an expert, just the king, yeah. Sajnos nem a magyar a világnyelv, vagy nem sajnos. Nekem nincs bajom az angol szerencsére, úgyhogy kicsit könnyebb is megtanulni az angolt, mint a magyart. I know sorry. So I know Hungarian as much as I can talk to an energy drink. What? I might be missing a reference or something, but yeah, this is totally fine. To be frank, I learned a few Romanian expressions in the past, but I forgot about all of them. So we are in the same situation, Flavius, I think. But yeah, you could teach me a few, I think, especially if more people from your country starts showing up on stream, because I like to talk to people in their native languages if possible, even if not a lot, but you know, just greet them. Okay, okay, so I'm still working on actual stuff, but if you guys have any more questions or something, pop it in chat and I'm going to check it out. But first I really need to figure something out with this sassiness with the player and the spawner. Okay, so I was able to log some stuff. So when the player is created by this player spawner, another spawner is also spawned, which is the probe spawner, which is attached to the player. But the problem is that if I run the game in debug mode, I can't see that freaking spawner. There's only one. And that one is actually the one that spawns the player. So what the frick is happening? I'm going to add some extra event that runs if a spawner gets destroyed. Because I have a hunch that something is destroying my freaking spawner, the one that is supposed to be right under the player. What am I doing? Okay. Okay, so the spawner destroyed message is not showing up. So by this, I would guess that the spawner is not destroyed. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I just missed it. It's right here. Okay, this is freaking tricky. I might have an idea. So even though, so the spawner object, this instance of the spawner object has this set, but maybe something else is up. Okay, let me just check one more thing. Okay, so if I remove this, this means that no spawner should be destroyed anyway. And seemingly the spawner destroyed message is not showing up anymore, but I still can't see the freaking spawner. So yeah. Okay, I'm also going to disable this and this. Yeah, okay. So this is more clear. So the problem is that the spawner that is spawned by the player, right, is actually not inheriting the properties from this instance. I think that might be the problem. And yeah, this is not an engine bug. This is just a choice that I forgot to take into account, I think, that the Construct developers made. So I'm going to quickly try something. What if I turn the player object into an actual template called player, and I'm going to switch, leave this switched on, not that it matters a lot, but maybe. And now I am going to set these back to active, so now the spawner should be invisible or destroyed or something like that. But no, it's still, the problem is that the spawner that gets spawned by the player is also destroyed because for some reason it has the isAutoSpawner value set to 1, even though this instance does not have it. So yeah, this is a bit tricky. No reference, I just don't know any words. That's also fine, obvious. I mean, this might turn into an actual expression, who knows? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I need to take like 2-minute break at this point, guys. So I'm just going to switch to pause mode, but I will be right back. I just need to take a little bio break. 2 perc és visszatérek, csak kiszaladok egy helyre, és már is itt vagyok. And I am back. So I'm going to try one more thing that is still not the best idea probably, but just for kicks I want to see how it works. And the other plan is that I'm probably going to do is to spawn the spawner for the player dynamically during runtime instead of using the hierarchy to get the engine to automatically spawn it, because that is not working as intended. So I'm just going to try turning the spawner into a template. I'm not even going to bother with giving it a name. No, it still does not work. So yeah, this is totally fine. So I'm going to remove the spawner from the player completely. And I'm going to restructure things a little. Also, I am going to restore, I think, everything, but maybe not yet, but soon, from the level backup that I just made with all the other objects. But before I do that, let me just create a new custom action for the spawner object. That is going to be called spawn, actually. So this one should spawn a spawner object. Very meta. So yeah, it should take a parameter or two, like spawner type, I guess, or maybe just object type, which should be a string, and another parameter called is auto spawner. No, I'm not even going to bother with this parameter, because whenever I want to call this, I will definitely don't want the spawner to activate right away. So this should just create a spawner from thin air. At a certain layer, at a certain position. I'm going to set this later. And the big difference is that I want the spawner to have the value set to no, which is 0. And this should mean that this init function shouldn't run on it. This might still not work as intended, but I'm just going to try something. Okay, so I will also need to set the X and Y parameters, and just for kicks I'm also going to say layer name, or just layer, because it can be an ID or a name. I'm just going to pass that right here. Whoops, I meant this one, X and Y. And I'm going to say create hierarchy. Yeah. Or no, the spawner does not need to have hierarchy. So yeah, this is fine. And hopefully this will run before the init function runs, but we'll see, I guess. So, okay, so when the player is initialized, I actually want the player to create a spawner. I'm just going to add this right here. Spawner spawn, and the object type should be yeah, I haven't made an object type enum or macro for the robe yet, so I'm just going to use barrel for now. I'm going to say it should be on the main layer, I guess. It doesn't really matter. And the X and Y position should be whatever the player's X and Y position is, so just like this. And this should mean that the player should create a spawner that spawns a barrel, in this case, right below the player. Something I screwed up. Okay. What's going on? Please hold. Something's off. But something unrelated might be off, so... Is it too foggy? For some reason. Okay, the player spawner is still here. I might have made some changes here, but they are now restored. Okay. Let me just check something, but in the debug mode, of course. Okay, I made some stupid error somewhere, definitely, because it wasn't that broken before. Okay. Let me just check if the player still exists in the world. They definitely do, and they are falling down, which is very sus. It looks like the initialization has not run correctly, because I do set the world gravity to 0, so yeah, okay. What the freak did I screw up? Something big, something big. Okay, player uncreated is right here. And what happens on this layout, I wonder? Something very similar. Okay. One thing that I sometimes do when this sort of thing happens is that I keep pressing undo, like there's no tomorrow, and I just go back to a state that was working. But I really wonder what the freak did I screw up, because the initialization should run correctly, I think. So for auto spawners, I'm spawning the object that is supposed to be spawning, and it is spawning, so that's fine. What? Oh, this is a problem. Yeah, I think I spotted it. Yes, okay. So since there is no spawner child on the player anymore, because I removed it, this whole picking stuff was not running. So anything that was on this side of the event was not running, because it failed to pick a child instance of the spawner on the player object, and this just means that this is false and this whole stuff does not run. So okay, let me just restore some things. Okay. Ooh, this is also interesting. This turned out to be a little stress test, I think, and also a good number of objects are still spawning. Okay, when is the CPU is going to die? Okay, I'm going to turn it off. Yeah. So, I think I know what's the problem. So let's just go back to the spawner event sheet. So I'm creating an object that is called spawner, but I forgot to set its animation, so this is a problem. Set animation to what was in the object type parameter, because I was creating a gazillion players, because the first animation of the spawner, I believe, is the player one, which was in turn spawned somewhere. Yeah, it's still not working. So it's still spawning a bunch of more players. It's a nice little recursion, but this is still not great. So I'm contemplating disabling the spawner created init call completely, and instead, what if I do something like, and just as a temporary measure, of course, I'm going to fix this properly, but if I add a little delay or something, this could work better. Okay, so I am going to, did I disable it? Okay, I'm going to add one single call for all spawners to spawn at the start of the level. And the start of the level happens somewhere here. Just to be safe, I'm going to add a little delay. So I'm going to say wait 1 second, and then spawner init should run for all the spawners. So this just means that there's a 1 second delay, and then after that everything spawns. There's no more recursion, which is good, but there's also no spawner spawning below the player. So the init should be called right here as well, after the properties have been set so that it does not automatically spawn something. Okay, so this is good. I think this might be the little spawner. It's a bit tiny, but yeah. Yeah, I might need to rework some things to make this actually properly work. I'm going to need to use object templates, I think. So some properties are automatically propagated. Because the problem right now is that when I'm saying, hey, construct, make another spawner, the spawner should have some default values, including the size. And right now it's ambiguous because there are a bunch of spawners on the first level, or even if not a bunch, just one, then this is going to get inherited. So if I run it on this one, I'm guessing that it would also work similarly, but no. Okay. Crap. This is not great because I was contemplating ending the stream soon before I do stupid crap like this. But yeah, I guess it already happened, so I'm just going to fix that and then after end it on a good note. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to undo some things. I'm going to restore this, and I'm also going to think of another way to initialize this or to create this spawner below the player, because this is clearly not the way to go. I think I'm going to go back here and make sure that things are working. Yeah, something is still off, but yeah, I forgot to disable this. And also I'm going to restore, I already restored the init call to the spawners, and I'm going to remove this one. So now everything should be working fine, but I want to check the other level, which has stuff. Okay, so this is the correct behavior. I'm just going to delete this level and rename this one to level and make sure that the game is actually starting at this layout. So if I just press F4 right now to run the project, it's working fine. Now, what I need to do is to use object templates. So construct can distinguish between the defaults of the spawner depending on which spawner it is. So for this I'm going to go to the level, and I will need to select all spawners that are similar, except that some spawners are actually not similar. Some have different orientations. Okay, and the sizes, for example, the decoration. Okay, I'm going to try something. or maybe just think it through and hydrate first. Okay, so I think I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make some spawners on the object templates layout that are actually templates, and I'm going to spawn them. And this also means that I can set the isAutoSpawner value to 0, and it will actually spawn with the isAutoSpawner value set to 0. So this is cool. Yeah, so let me just create an instance here. Old spawner, I think this is the only one, right? Okay, yeah. I'm going to set its animation to the probe one. And I am going to set isAutoSpawner to 0. And also I'm going to turn this into a template. And templates have the ability to be referenced dynamically. I mean, when you're spawning something, you can specify a template by name. And if construct finds an instance in your project with that template name, it's going to use all the properties that you set up for spawning it. So yeah, I'm going to say the same as the animation name, which is probe. But I could also just say something like player spawner or something. Might be a little ambiguous, but for now I'm going to use this. And once I use the new string in a property that I want to reference, I'm also going to create a macro for that. So I am going to create a global variable that is going to act as a macro. So if I rename something here, I just need to rename it here as well, and boom, construct does the whole refactoring automatically. So template player spawner. And right here, I just need to do something like player, not this one, the other one, player the family reference, spawn another object. I'm going to say spawner, and the layer should be, I don't know, the main one, doesn't really matter. The position is automatically inherited from the player if you're using the spawn another object action, so this is all right. Image point 0, fine. Create hierarchy, no, I don't think I'm going to need it, but for a template name, I'm going to reference the player spawner one. So this means that the instance that spawns is going to look exactly like this one. It's going to have the same size, and all the freaking properties that are set here are going to be the same as the one that is spawning dynamically right here. So player spawner is actually this instance or this template, and it has the probe set as an animation, which means that it's going to spawn a probe, hopefully, at one point. But it's not spawning the probe, but this is because the initialization stuff is not happening, but this is the correct behavior. So when a spawner is spawned, the init custom action is run. And if it's an instance which has the isAutoSpawner variable set to yes, then the whole spawning thing is going to happen. But in this case, I want the player to just move this stuff around. So I'm going to put it in a hierarchy with the player. So I'm going to say spawner, no, I'm going to say player add child and say spawner, and I just want to synchronize the X and Y values and nothing more. Possibly I can also check destroy with parent, so if the player is destroyed, then the spawner can also be cleaned up. Echo, azt mondod, hogy bonyolultabb, mint Unity-ban megírni? Hát nem tudom, lehet egyébként. Biztos, hogy aki jobban ért a Unityhez, mint én a konstruktor, az jobban megírja Unity-ben. Azt tuti. Illetve, ha nekem kéne Unity-ben megírni, akkor garantálom neked, hogy abban is sokkal többet szenvednék. De igen, amire most ráfutottunk, az pont egy elég cseles szituáció volt, és egy olyan dolog, ami igen, tehát hogy az engine-nek nyilván van egy koncepciója, egy működése, és azt tudni kell, de szerintem ez egy Unity-nél szintén tök ugyanígy van, tehát hogy egy idő után, hogyha elkezdesz használni egy engine-t, akkor bejönnek ezek a dolgok, amikor úgy gondolkodsz, hogy az engine gondolkodik, ideális esetben feltéve, hogy nem felejted el, hogy az engine hogy gondolkodik, és ez pont egy olyan szituáció volt, amikor tudom én, hogy a construct az hogy működik, csak valahogy egy bizonyos részét elfelejtettem, és azért rá kellett jönnöm, hogy mi volt a háttérben lévő logika, ami, mondom, tehát a bug az nálam volt, nem az engine-ben, és emiatt ez most egy kicsit sokáig tartott azért, de most már, ha minden igaz, akkor a játékosunk az hurcol magával egy spawnert, ott is van. Hülyén néz ki, de az most mindegy, mert a grafikát azt ki tudjuk cserélni. So yeah, right now the spawner is right below the player, which is fine. Of course, what I want to do is to have some sort of, I don't know, button or something that the player can press, so they don't see the whole spawner stuff all the time, only when they want to build something. And I also want to allow the player to actually activate this spawner, which will destroy it and spawn the building. So for now, just for testing purposes, I'm going to create a little input event. So if I press something on the keyboard, mouse, gamepad, whatever, then the spawner is should actually activate below the player. Although I don't want the spawner to be destroyed because I want to reuse it later. So yeah, some minor restructuring will need to be done, but this is fine. So for now, I'm just going to create a new keyboard input event. I'm going to say keyboard on key pressed. And I'm going to say it should be, I don't know, F. No, not F. That is assigned to full screen mode. So I'm going to say E, I guess. Why not? I'm going to add an alternative just so I don't forget to change it later. Whoops. I also want the player to be able to build stuff with the gamepad. So I'm going to say gamepad on button pressed, and the Y button is not used yet. So if the player presses E on the keyboard or Y on the gamepad, then the whole spawning stuff should happen if the position is correct, which I will also need to take care of. So, I mean, I need to validate it because the player should not be able to start placing blueprints of building right on a rock or something. Okay, so I'm going to create a custom action for the player called, how do I call it? Attempt building? I don't know. This is horrible, but I'm going to change it later. Also, yeah, there's the custom action called drop cargo if possible, but yeah, which is also not a great name, but just to be in the same style, naming convention or something, I'm going to say build if possible. And this implies that this custom action is the one that is actually going to validate the position of the spawner. And if it's in a good spot, so somewhere that the player should be able to put a building, then I'm going to say, okay, let's spawn that building for now right away. In the real version, I think I would want the spawner to have a little delay, and with some UI shenanigans as well, I can tell the player when the building is going to appear there. But now that I think about it, I think I will actually need to detach the spawner from the player and create a new one. This is going to be the solution. Because if a spawner is placed somewhere, and if we want to have the player to be able to cancel it, so it does not result in a building, then this should be the easiest way to do it, because there's a spawner that you can destroy, and that's it. So yeah. So player build if possible. I'm going to skip the validation for now, but I'm going to make a to-do comment. To-do validate, validate position, or placement, more like it. And I'm going to just say that yeah, I definitely need to pick the spawner that is attached to the player at the moment. So player pick children spawner, and after the spawner is picked, I just want the spawner to detach from the player. So I'm going to say spawner remove child. No, sorry, I did something wrong. So spawner remove from parent. Yeah, this is the one that I was looking for. So this just means that the spawner is detached and it no longer synchronizes its position to the player. And for good measure, I think I'm going to add some basic implementation for the whole delayed building stuff. So I'm going to add the timer behavior on the spawner object type so I can start a timer using it. I'm going to say spawner start timer, and I'm just going to use this magic number of 1 right now. I'm also going to create a macro so I can reference the timer later. I already have a couple of timer macros, so I'm just going to say timer building, and I just use the string value of building to assign to it. And right here I'm just going to say timer building. So it's detached from the player, the timer starts, and in 1 second I want the spawner to actually spawn the stuff that it is supposed to spawn. So this I will need to take care somewhere. Also the music stopped, which is okay. It did not stop, it just that was just some silence in it. Good. Okay, so I have a timers event sheet that I use to have all the timer triggers handled. So right here I'm just going to say spawner on timer building, and I'm going to say spawner, and I guess I could say set value is auto spawner set to yes, and then I run the init function, which is a little tricky, but maybe it's going to work. Let's see. Okay, I forgot something. So there's no action in this condition, I mean in this event, so I'm just going to say player no, what was it called? Something if possible. So yeah, I'm going to search for if possible, and build if possible is the new custom action that we made. So if I move somewhere here, I detach, and yeah, the building is now ready. In 1 second, the probe spawned right there. So this is cool. The problem is that the player no longer has a spawner attached to it, but this is something that we can also handle, of course. I'm just going to save. And yeah, so this is the part where the player spawns a spawner on it. And this is something that might needs to be, it needs to be called a couple times. So I'm going to create a new custom action on the player family, and it's going to say, it's going to be called add spawner, or add player spawner to be precise. I'm going to move this right here below the initialization function. And this stuff is going right here. And right here I'm only going to call player, and add player spawner. So at first, when the player is initialized, the add player spawner custom action is called, and the spawner is created and added as a child to the player. And once the building is also ready, I'm going to also create a new spawner for the player. So I guess something like this. So I just press E, in a second, boom, the building appears, and I can also press E and yeah, build a bunch more probes, which is cool, I think, for a first implementation anyway. As you can see, the angle is a little sus. This is a bit weird, possibly. I don't think I want the player to be allowed to rotate the stuff, because there is not going to be a point in adjusting the angle of buildings. On that note, I should probably tell our 3D artist that the building should be mostly I'm not saying symmetrical, but yeah, it shouldn't matter in which angle they are spawned in, or we can just use a fixed angle all the time. Yeah, so right here, because we are using the player's spawn action, the spawner is actually inheriting its angle from the player, which I don't want. So I'm just going to say spawner set angle and set it to 0. So right after the player spawns the spawner, it's also restored to the default 0 angle, which in construct means that it's looking at the right. So if I place something here, even though I'm moving around and the player's angle is different, as you can see, the spawner is no longer rotated. So yeah. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and 7 o'clock is definitely the deadline that I was going to give myself. So what I'm going to do is just to create a new build for you guys to try if you want to. No pressure, of course. And call it a day. Szóval csinálunk egy utolsó buildet, és aztán már ráhagyom a fejlesztést, viszont valószínűleg holnap visszatérek. And the plan is to stream some more tomorrow. So if anyone is interested on where I get to tomorrow, I'm probably going to be back, but I have no idea when. I'm going to start streaming probably sometime in the morning or late or early afternoon. Yeah. So I'm just exporting the project right now, and I'm going to call my good old script, which pushes the current build to itch. And I'm going to, yeah, so the itch version should be up in a few seconds. So if any of you guys feel the need to try the current version of the game, which is nothing, but you can, I guess, try the functions, you can just check out the link that I sent in chat. And to move, you can use the WASD keys, just the default one. To land or take off, you can press X or C if that's what you prefer. You can pick barrels up with space, and you can drop them with shift. And the new building function, which is still quite wonky, you can access with the keyboard E button. So you can press F to toggle full screen. Thank you to Nerds for sticking around. I really appreciate that you were here. And also, I am going to catch the stream tomorrow. And if I manage to actually not procrastinate and stream tomorrow, I may or may not raid you guys with the millions of viewers that I already also have. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to call it a day. So the new build seems to be working fine. It's still pretty small, but this is probably going to change once we have a bunch of models in it and big textures and stuff like this, although I will try to keep the file size under wraps because we might have some performance issues. The laptop that I'm usually using for development is not a beefy one. It does not have a dedicated video chip, so it's just an integrated GPU. And I'm not saying it's already struggling with the game, but it's definitely showing high CPU use. So, yeah, tricky. Right. As I said, thank you once again for sticking around. If you're interested, you can... oh, let me just plug our brand new Discord server one more time. So if you are interested in the stuff that we do, you can join our Discord server and you can get notifications about my streams. And also every time we push a bigger game update on any of our previous games, there are swanky roles that you can set up. So you can only subscribe to the, you should only subscribe to the notifications that you want. So yeah. And also the Discord server is pretty new. So it's some crickets are still hanging around there. We are also there with Tibor, and Flavius, of course, the omnipresent one, is already there. So yeah, we would love for anyone to join who's interested in our stuff. So yeah, this is about it. Thank you very much for watching once again. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully. And yeah, take care now. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, Flavius, that's a good reminder. I completely forgot. Raid. Can we raid someone? Also, how many viewers do I have? 4. That's nice. Yeah, sure. I mean, I see sometimes Mixor Studios rating with 1 viewer, so if they are okay with this sort of thing, why shouldn't I do it? Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to check who is up at the moment. I don't think I've ever raided Sorcery, but I see that Temptic is also live, and I have a hunch that they just probably started recently. I'm not sure if I remember their schedule correctly, but yeah, let's raid Temptic. Temptic is a super nice author who is working in Godot, making an overlay all the time with fish and stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to press some buttons and let's go there. Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Flavius. So yeah, see you guys at Temptix, and have a nice weekend if you can't join tomorrow. Bye.